Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols, and I'm here to bring you your Nichols Worth, and today from Cambridge University Press, we have the NASB Diadem. Now this is the NASB 1995. I don't know if there's any future works for the NASB 2020 with Cambridge, but if you want an NASB 95, you should probably go ahead and get them now because we don't know what the future holds for those. But check this out. First of all, let's look at the cover. This cover is called a calf split. Now what a calf split leather is calf skin leather is a bit thicker than your goat skin leather. Goat skin leather is thin, so it cannot be split, where calf can. So you take the top half of the calf and you put that on a Bible and you have that natural grain. The bottom half, that's not going to be the case. It's going to have to be stamped and pressed because it's that underneath half of the leather. It's a little stiffer, it's a little bit lower quality, but it's also a little less expensive. You can get this one for under $200 to where the goat skin is going to cost you north of $200. So let's take a look real quick at some of the work. Really like Cambridge's spine work. This is a nice thin Bible. Really nice gilding here. Red and gold head and tail band to give you that match. And then we have these two little thin ribbons. I would like to see better ribbons in this, but for a Bible of this size, it's not a terrible option. I would just prefer to see those full 1/8 inch double-sided satin ribbons. When you get into the liner is a paste down vinyl liner. The goat skin one is edge lined and it also does have sewn edges. And then when you get into the text block itself, you can see that 32 GSM French paper. Now, I don't know if this is the same as the Endopaque paper that we see in some of their 28 GSMs, but it does have the same feel. It's just a little bit thicker, and I'm going to tell you, I like it. I like this really nice, thicker paper in the diadems. Now, I want to show you real quickly in the ESV with Apocrypha. They do have an ESV option without the Apocrypha. This one contains the Apocrypha, and this one has your references in the middle, and it has your notes in the corner. Now the NASB is going to be a little different than that. I found that surprising. I'm assuming it's because the NASB has a lot more references. But what you're going to see here is you're going to see your notes and references all in the middle, and then this in the corner is when there's too many notes and references to fit in that middle, and they're going to be in the corner. So if you like your notes and references separated, this is going to be a little bit of a different experience for you because the notes are interspersed in with the references. They are not in the corner. So if you want those notes in the corner, you're going to want to stick with the ESV. If you don't mind them being intermixed with the references, then the NASB will be just fine with you. This is an 8.2 font, but because of the leading space, this reads like an 8.5. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you a couple other examples of Bibles laid out similarly to this that utilize that 8-ish to 8.5 point font and show you how they compare. First of all, this is more of a compact option. One thing to know about this is paginated and laid out exactly the same as the Pit Minion. So if you like the NASB Pit Minion, but it's a little small for you, this is going to give you about a 1.5 larger font size. Now let's look at the KJV. This is the Center Column Compact from Thomas Nelson, and this one says that it has an 8-point font. But as you can see, the footprint is a lot smaller. It has a similar referencing system, but when you compare the two fonts together, you can tell this is not a whole lot bigger. So if you've seen this one, this is not going to have a whole lot bigger of a font. What sets it apart, what makes this easier to read, is look how tight these lines are on this one and how nice and spacious. That's called leading space. The space between the lines is called leading space. And what that does is it gives the text room to breathe and it gives it a larger appearance. So while these fonts are really close to the same size, this one looks so much smaller because they're crammed together. Part of that is because of a smaller footprint, but this is also a thicker Bible. Now let's look at one that has essentially the same size footprint and essentially the same size font. And this is the NLT Center Column Reference Bible. And this has an 8.5 point font. And you can see the font here looks a little bit taller, but that leading space is a little bit tighter and it just doesn't seem as spacious as the Diadem. So you have the advantage of a larger font here, but it's really hard to tell with the way this is laid out. One thing to know about font sizes. Font size is not everything. There's all sorts of factors. How bold is the font? If you notice, this font looks a little more bold than this one. That makes it, boldness makes it a little more readable. So when we consider boldness of the font, when we consider letting space, a bolder font with more space is going to appear larger and be easier to read. Now, one thing that Cambridge does that I think is right on every time, that is their red letter. The red letter in these editions are just simply amazing. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and compare the red letter of this edition to this edition and to this edition. These are all wonderful, beautiful red letters, and they're all equally dark. And it may be difficult to pick up on camera, but this is more of a true red, a really nice dark red. These are good red letters, but this has more of that burgundy effect, to where it just gives you that darker, more bold appearance, and it seems to be a little less in the red kind of blinding category. One of the biggest complaints with red letters is when it comes against the glare of light or something like that, it can kind of wash out. This doesn't do that. This is a beautiful red letter. Again, these are all amazing red letter Bibles. I recommend them. I love all three. But the Cambridge red letter does seem to be in a class by itself. So when we look at the rest of what this Bible has to offer, let's get to the end. And this is interesting. Check this out. Because you have the full page filled out here, but once you get past the book of Revelation, it looks like they almost kept that pit minion size a little wider, but this font is like really, really, really tiny, like maybe a 4-point font. But it does give you the advantage of having a concordance in the back, keyed to the NASB. What I really kind of wish they would do is just go ahead and get rid of this, because look at how many pages you would save by getting rid of it, and how much more thin this Bible would be. Because for me, it's just not extremely useful because it's so small. But if your eyesight will let you, you do have a concordance here that you can use. And then, of course, Cambridge's maps are always really excellent, always really thorough. They always have several of them. And this is also interesting here, is when you get to the map index, it's also on that glossy paper. I was a little surprised to see that. But their maps are always thorough, really nice. I mean, check it out. This is like all their maps. It's a bunch. There's probably 12 maps or so in here, just really thorough. So if you like maps in the back of your Bible and you like all these extras, this is nice. I do think this is a great Bible. I do think it's a little bit expensive when you consider that it's not the premium edition, but with Cambridge, what you get is what you get. They've been around since the 1590s. They're the oldest Bible publisher in the world. So you are buying something that has stood the test of time. This is a Royal Youngblood, sewn binding, well-made, handcrafted Bible. So there you have it. Keep calm. Jesus on. This is your Nicholsworth.